In today's video, we're going to be working on installing drawer slides, full extension, soft close drawer slides. I'm going to show you guys how to install them. I'm going to show you guys how I get the measurements for the spacing on each of these so that I can make my drawers and have them all properly spaced and operating smooth. All right, guys, so let's get started with this and I'll show you how simple it can be. You don't need any crazy special jigs or anything like that, just some scraps, and you need your tracks. I'm going to show you how to make it easy. Okay, so we're going to get started on installing the drawer slides first. I'm going to show you how I get my distance of where I'm going to place them, and also that's going to, tell me how tall my drawers need to be also. I'm working with 20-inch soft close drawer slides here. They're going to be side mount. This is going to be a bathroom vanity. And I'm putting a bank of drawers here, which is in the center between the two sinks. I have my manufacturer specs. And one of the things that I tell people all the time, they always get on me for using metric when I'm building cabinets. Cabinets worldwide are on a 32 millimeter system. If you guys don't understand this by now, then I don't know what to tell you. But if you're using Imperial, then first of all, any of the hardware that I ever buy, Bloom, Salice, or even some other brands that you get on Amazon, they all come with metric measurements. All the measurements are in millimeters. So that's why I say worldwide, the standard is a 32 millimeter system. Everything is divisible by 32, which makes a balanced panel. So everything is perfectly even and just makes math a lot easier. You work the way you want to work. I'm not telling you to use metric. I use metric on cabinetry because it's easier for me. So you don't want to use metric, use the standard Imperial measurements. There's no, I'm not forcing you guys to do this. I'm trying to help you guys out by showing you how I do the install, okay? How I get my math and stuff like that. So the principles are the same. I want 3 drawers in here and I want all the drawers to be even. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to use spacers and my tape measure. So first thing I want to do is I want to get my bottom, of my drawer and my slide. I want it to be 18 millimeters. The plywood is 18 millimeters. That's what I'm working with. Put that on the bottom, and then the drawer slide will stop right there. But before I measure for where I'm going to put these, because I'm just going to be using the spacers for that, we're going to take some measurements and we're going to divide things to make it easy so I can make some marks on the plywood here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have my spacer down there because I want the drawer 18 millimeters up off of the base. This way there's nothing protruding down where it's going to drag on this bottom carcass here. I'm going to put I like to use a folding rule for this. You don't have to, you could use a tape measure. But the first thing I want to do is I want to see the actual inside of the box here, right? So from the bottom to the top, I'm going to measure, and what I have is 732 millimeters. Okay, so write that measurement down or just put it on your calculator. Now you can use a regular calculator for this if you're using metric because it's all based on tenths. So 732. I want to space my drawers out 18 millimeters and I want 3 drawers. So that means I'm going to have 18 millimeter spacing here, 18 millimeter spacing at the top. Now this is for the boxes. It has nothing to do with the drawer fronts right now. This is just for the boxes. 18 millimeters from the top, and then we're going to have an 18 millimeter at the bottom of that drawer. That's the spacing between that drawer, 18 millimeters here. So now if you have 3 drawers, you're going to have 4 openings of space in between top and bottom of each drawer. So 18 millimeters times 4 gives you 72. So what we're going to do now is we got 732 is the opening. We're going to subtract 72. That equals 660. Now 660, we want 3 drawers. So we're going to divide 660 by 3 and we get 220. So that means that each one of my drawers, the boxes, they're going to be 220 millimeters tall. So now we're just going to mark that out on the inside of the plywood, but I'm going to use my spacer because remember that's all factored in. So I have 18 millimeter spacer. I'm going to mark out 220. Then from 220, 18 millimeters, the spacing in between is 238. You see how easy that is? 238. Now you can do the same thing from the top. Just put your spacer on the top. Hold that up there. You can put a clamp if you want, or you could just rely on your tape to do the math. So what I'll do is I'll make a mark here instead of holding that. And now I have my spacing. So now I'll put my folding rule right there and I'm going to mark out the 220, and then I'm gonna mark out 238. And now I have all my spacing for my 3 drawers. Okay, now this is a rather small cabinet. It's only 314 millimeters wide on the inside, or that translates to about roughly 12 3/8 inches. So it's a little over a foot. So I'm only gonna be able to really, get the front half of the cabinet in the camera for me to screw it in. But just so you know, when I go to screw the back in, it looks like I might be blocking the camera. So I'm gonna try my best to only, stay out here like this to screw it in place. Hopefully this will help you out still. You'll be able to see everything I'm doing. First thing you got to do with the slides is to separate the actual slide piece from the piece that gets screwed in over here. So on the back there is a tab to separate it right here. You just take that tab and you pull it up and it slides right out. You put that off to the side. This is the piece that gets attached to the drawer. This is the piece that's going to get attached on the inside. Okay, so hopefully my lines that I marked are not getting washed out. So I have my spacer here, my 18 millimeter plywood spacer at the bottom. I'm going to be using my combination square for the setback. Now normally these are about 2 millimeters setback from the edge of the frame. With the pieces separated, you can't push this all the way back, but there's a tab right here that is the spring-loaded piece. You need to push that up and let that go all the way back and retract. This way you can push this all the way back so that you can set the slide as far back as you need, which in my case, I'm gonna set it to about 2 millimeters. Okay, so right there, that's about the 2 millimeter mark. Then just take the provided screws, and what you gotta do is you gotta move the inside track so that there's an opening to where you can install the screw. And then you just got to basically get it right in the center. You want to make sure that you don't over torque these, because if you strip it out, it's basically useless and you'll have to fill the hole with some pieces of wood like toothpicks and glue and then do it again. And then you just go down the line here to the center. What you want to make sure is that you're still sitting flush on your spacer. Once you get 2 of the screws in, you can go to the back here and you can pull this all the way forward. If you look in the back, there's 2 holes at the back that have washers on them also. So I'm gonna put a screw in over there. So this way I have constant stability all the way through the end of the track. You only need about 3 screws in each one of these. And that's it, those are all secure. So now what you can do is put your piece back in, because you're not gonna have to worry about this until later on, after the drawer is installed. And I'll show you exactly how I do that later. So now you can see how these operate. They're soft close. Go there and that's it. Okay, so now that I have my first slide installed, I want to make sure that I'm going to measure up from that slide up to, not my first line because that's the top of my drawer. I'm going to measure up to the distance here to the second line. That's my spacing of the 18 millimeter. So for that, I have 194 millimeters. So now I'm going to cut a spacer to 194 so that I can install that and use that as a template for the rest of the slides. So I'm going to try and get you the best angle possible. It's kind of difficult because this is a weird angle and it's in a weird area, so there's really no good way to show you this, but hopefully I can stay back and show you how I'm installing this. We had the 18 millimeter spacing for the bottom, just like that. We rested it on there. Now I take my spacer, I separated my slide, and I'm gonna put this back on top of here, and you can see that now I'm at my secondary mark here, so that gives me the spacing in between. So I'm gonna bring my slide up to the edge there and use my combination square, which is about 2 millimeters back. All right, touching right there. And now I'm going to install the first screw. Okay, you want to make sure that you're staying on top of that spacer so that everything is parallel to the bottom. Install another screw here in the center. And now one in the back here, right in the center of that. Okay, that's it, nice and tight, secure. Pull out the spacer and we can put the piece back that attaches to the drawer box, because like I said, I'm going to show you how to install that later, an easy way to do it. Just make sure that that stays flat. Push that back all the way in till it clicks, and pull it out, and it should go perfectly back. Now, another trick that you can do when installing these is if you don't feel comfortable just letting the spacer sit there at the top, you can bring it forward a little bit and you can install a clamp, and that'll hold it in place for you, and then you don't have to worry about it moving around on you. So now, once again, for the last slide, and you can already see how even everything is in perfect spacing. We're going to separate the slide, pull it forward. There's that little tab right there. You pull that plastic piece and then separate the drawer box slide from the main slide. And then in the back, the spring-loaded clip, let it go back all the way. And then you can push this all the way back. And then you can let this sit on top of here. Use your combination square. Okay, there we go. It's in the perfect spot. And just pull this forward a little bit till I expose the opening for the first screw, and right in the center. Okay, holding it down, now it's secured. Now I can move this around and install my other screws. Perfect, that's where I want to be. And the last one in the back. All right, there we go. Take that out. Get this out of the way. Slide back in. All right, clipped in. Pull it out. Perfect. Now we just do the same on the opposite side. Okay, so I showed you how to install the glides. I have my drawer boxes here, they're all made up. Now I'm gonna show you an easy way to install it with these pieces already in, where you don't have to take them off, you don't have to use any fancy jigs, just your spacer blocks that you used to space out and install the drawer glides. So this is really simple. This is where I see a lot of people screwing up and fumbling with it and trying to create jigs or buy jigs, but you don't need anything except for your spacer blocks. So these are 2 pieces of 18 millimeter. And we use those in the beginning to space out the drawer glides. Now, when I put the drawer glides in there, these are gonna be mostly towards the bottom of the drawer. It doesn't matter where you install these. If you wanted to, after you got your measurements, you could actually mark out between the lines of where you marked out where all the drawer boxes are gonna sit. And you could have measured between those lines, got your center mark, and then made a center mark and put a line with a T-square or a combination square. And then you could have marked off the center of your drawer, and you could have tried to install this piece separately on the drawer. And you know, it's just simpler to do it like this in one spot, put it on there, and you're gonna see how I'm gonna do this right now, pulling the piece out and installing 1 screw at a time on each side of the box. It's so simple that I don't know why everybody doesn't do it this way. Okay, so I have my 2 18 millimeter spacers right here. That's gonna have the drawer box sit exactly where I want it. I'm just gonna pull these slides out a little bit so I have access to them and I don't have to stick my nail in there and try to get them out. I have my fully assembled drawer box, and that's gonna fit right in there perfectly. And I'm gonna just push it back on top of those spacers that I have. And I'm gonna push it back, you know, pretty far in. I just want enough to where this is gonna be exposed, where I can use my screw gun to put the screw into the side of the drawer. Another thing I like to do is take a block so that I can put it right against the front, and then this tab right here of the drawer glide will actually sit completely flush with the front of the drawer box, because then when I put on the drawer front later on, you don't want this protruding past it or too far back, because then when you slide the drawer in, when it self-closes, you may have a gap where it's not gonna pull the drawer front in. So you gotta make sure that you keep this perfectly in line. So I'm just gonna get any block that I have laying around here. Take this piece right here, just like this, and I know I have a squeeze clamp here because I just used it. There it is. Just take that and just put it right there. You can actually bring it down a little bit so I can see where I'm clamping. And the trick here now is you have that in place, that you don't have to worry about lining it up so much, being square or anything like that. You just want to make sure that you have the tab pressing up against that piece. Then just going to take one of the provided screws from the tracks, and as you hold that piece against the tab right there, you're just gonna center the screw into the hole on the slide. Make sure it stays in place. Screw that piece in. Make sure you hold it down too so you're on your spacers. Okay, that's one. Next thing I'm going to do is move this over to the other side. Same thing here. You're going to make sure that this tab is pulled out and hitting right in the center. You're going to drive one screw. Now you can take this off. You don't need it anymore. Put it to the side. Put your clamp to the side, and now that you're already on this side, you might as well stick with it. I'll leave the camera there so you can see. I'll just pull it out a little bit further until I expose the next screw hole that I need to attach, which is right there. You only need 3 screws. Make sure you're keeping your drawer box down onto your spacer blocks that you have underneath. Tighten that up. Show you the same thing on this side, a little bit closer. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit. Make sure that your drawer box is on your spacer. And you see you have a little window here. You can open up that little window by moving that slide back and forth. And then once you see where the screw has to go, you just pop it in there, give it a little pressure. Now we can pull it out the remaining way. You want to go slow here because you're going to start to pull the spacer block out also, because now you have some pressure on it. You see that little window right there, and then you have your spot right there. Hopefully I'm not blocking the camera at all. And there it is, your third screw. Do the same on the other side. And once you pull out your spacers, you're going to remove all tension from the drawer. And now full extension, drawer slide, soft close, perfect gap underneath, perfect gaps on the sides. Next thing we need to do is the next drawer, we need to put our spacers back in on the top of this drawer. Now I'm just going to repeat the process by sticking in my spacer blocks just like this right on top of the drawer. I want to make sure they stay on top of the drawer box that's below, because that's going to make it a perfect spacing for me. Take the next drawer box. You're just going to sit it right on top of those spacer blocks, right between the drawer slides. Push that in. And you can see how easy this is. It gives you a hands-free way to do this. Now, since you know what's going to be going on the other side here, I'm not going to keep switching the camera back and forth. I'm just going to tighten up this one and then move to the other side, tighten it up, leaving the camera in place. Otherwise, we're going to be taking just way too much time. Out all the way. Perfect. Keep moving right up the ladder here. Okay, last drawer on this side here in this cabinet. Same method. There we go. Now I got you on this angle because I'm trying to kind of give you an idea, the front of this, how even everything is. You can see how everything is completely perfect, reveals all the way around. Now we just, got to put drawer fronts on it, obviously, to finish them off, but everything perfect spacing. All the drawers are the same size. Another cool thing is when you build your casing with balanced panels, then you know that these drawers, the width will be different than another case, but the spacing of the glides and the depth of the drawer will be all the same. So I'm going to use the same spacer blocks. I'm going to use the same method to install all of these drawer glides over here, and then I'm going to use the same method of construction for the drawer boxes. And The only thing I'm gonna need to change is the width of the drawer because this is a more narrow cabinet carcass. So you can cut all your parts at one time. That's the beauty of having the balanced panels, is you know the lengths of your drawers, and then all you need to do is change the width of the front and the back of the drawer. So you're basically gonna save time and material because you can cut all the parts at once, edge band them all at once, and then you can put everything together at once. And then you can install everything at the same time also. I'm not doing that today on camera just because of time constraints. I'm trying to get this video out and I'm trying to get this vanity built because I have other jobs that I have to take care of. And so, you know, I'm trying to rush and do things as quick as I can. But obviously it turned out great. This is, you know, the method I've been using for years and it always works for me. And it's just simple. You don't need any special jigs or anything, just a couple of scrap pieces of plywood or solid wood, whatever you have laying around the shop. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time in the shop. I have a lot of builds coming up, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I have a lot of shop projects. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit the picture of a notification bell. It's going to notify you every time I upload a new video. All right, thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.